Do you know why most traders fail? It is not the market, it is not the strategy, it is not the news nor the charts. They fail because within themselves, they have already assumed failure. They enter a trade with fear. They place a stop loss with doubt. They take profits with hesitation. Their imagination is rooted in loss, and so life mirrors it back to them. 90% of traders are mastered by appearances. They look at the screen and believe it is final. They see red numbers and assume defeat. Yet, the truth is this: nothing in your outer world has power unless you grant it power through your assumption. A successful trader does not merely read charts. He reads his own inner state. He lives from the end, imagining profits already secured, abundance already his. While others tremble at risk, he assumes risk as nothing more than the shadow of fear, and he does not bow to it. For risk is only imagination misused. Profits are nothing more than imagination rightly directed. Your task, then, is simple: assume the state of the trader you wish to be. See yourself disciplined, calm, and prosperous. Feel the joy of a winning trade before you place it. Rest in the knowing that your inner world commands the outer. So I say to you, stop trading from fear and begin trading from faith. Stop measuring by loss and begin imagining from gain. The market does not decide your destiny, you do. Traders fail because they assume failure inwardly. Long before they click the button to buy or sell, they have already entertained thoughts of loss, doubt, and fear. Their imagination paints scenarios of disaster, and their emotions cling to the idea that the market will turn against them. Every action they take is colored by this hidden assumption. Even when they profit, they sabotage themselves, for deep within they never believed success could last. The market only reflects what they have accepted as true in consciousness, and so failure repeats itself again and again until belief is transformed. Outer appearances are powerless without inner belief. The numbers that flash on a screen, the charts that rise and fall, the news that pours in from every corner of the world. These things seem to carry weight, yet they hold no power until the trader gives them meaning. It is not the market that determines success or failure, but the inner conviction one holds about oneself and one's outcome. If the trader stands rooted in fear, every movement of the market confirms that fear. If he stands in faith, every movement becomes an avenue to express that faith. Appearances tempt the mind to bow before them, to accept them as final, yet they are only shadows of belief. The same chart that frightens one man inspires another, for each interprets it through the lens of his own assumption. To the one who believes in abundance, a dip in the market is nothing but an entry point. To the one who believes in loss, the same dip is proof of doom. The truth is that appearances bend to the imagination that sustains them, and it is the inner belief that silently dictates how the outer world must unfold. Fear-driven imagination creates losses. The trader who allows fear to rule his mind has already entered the trade defeated. Long before the candle closes, long before the chart shifts, he has built within himself a picture of disaster. Every tick against him becomes evidence of that inner vision. He watches the market not with clarity, but with trembling expectation of loss, and so the very thing he dreads is summoned into his experience. Fear magnifies small movements into storms, whispers into roars, and possibilities into certainties of failure. When imagination is ruled by fear, it begins to sabotage every decision. A trader exits too early because he imagines the profit will vanish. He holds too long because he imagines the market will reverse in his favor. He over-leverages because he imagines this one trade must make up for the past. None of these errors are born from the chart. They are born from the unseen pictures of failure already living within him. Fear-driven imagination does not simply observe the market, it bends every choice toward the outcome already assumed. Losses, then, are not accidents. They are the harvest of inner images, repeatedly planted and watered with doubt. Just as the seed determines the fruit, so the inner vision determines the result. A fearful imagination is not passive, it is creative. It shapes the hands of the trader, the timing of his actions, the confidence of his decisions. And though he may blame volatility, brokers, or news events, the real architect of his losses lies within the unseen workshop of the mind. Fear, clothed in imagination, builds the very results it dreads, ensuring that what was once a passing thought becomes an undeniable reality on the trading screen. Profitable trading begins in the mind. Before a chart is analyzed, before a strategy is tested, before a trade is placed, the outcome is already taking shape in the invisible realm of thought and imagination. The mind is the true trading desk, the hidden exchange where beliefs are bought and sold, where assumptions are entered, and where visions of success or failure are written into being. If the trader begins with a consciousness of doubt, even the soundest strategy falters, for the inner state will always override the outer method. If he begins with conviction, discipline, and an unwavering assumption of success, even simple methods yield consistent profit. The market is neutral, a mirror with no preference, reflecting only the state of the one who looks upon it. Two traders may see the same chart. One perceives opportunity, the other danger. One acts with confidence, the other with hesitation. The difference does not lie in the candles, but in the consciousness interpreting them. When the mind is rooted in clarity and abundance, the trader is not swayed by noise, not tossed about by every flicker of price action. He acts deliberately, calmly, and with trust in the outcome already imagined. Profitable trading demands discipline of thought more than discipline of action. It requires guarding the imagination from the weeds of fear, doubt, and desperation. The profitable trader rehearses success inwardly until it feels natural. He assumes abundance until it becomes the atmosphere of his every decision. He does not trade to escape loss, but to express wealth already felt within. Each entry is an extension of inner certainty, not a desperate grasp for external proof. The novice believes profit comes from strategy alone, but the seasoned understand it comes first from state of mind. Every winning system collapses in the hands of fear, while even modest systems flourish in the hands of conviction. The outer world of trading follows the inner order of thought, for imagination precedes manifestation. To profit consistently is not merely to master charts and tools, but to master oneself, to govern the invisible workshop of belief, where every trade is conceived long before it appears on the screen. Risk is nothing but imagination misapplied. The moment a trader considers risk, he is already envisioning loss, downfall, or destruction. He takes what is neutral, a simple fluctuation in numbers, and clothes it with the garments of fear. In truth, the market holds no inherent danger. A candle moving up or down is only motion, yet the mind interprets this motion as either fortune or ruin. Risk exists not in the chart, but in the imagination of the one who reads it. When imagination is filled with fear, hesitation, and lack, then every movement of price is magnified into a threat. Most traders misuse imagination by rehearsing disaster before it ever arrives. They picture the stop loss being hit, the account shrinking, the opportunity slipping away. They speak of risk management, yet in their hearts, they are not managing numbers, but wrestling with their own inner visions of defeat. What they call risk is nothing but the shadow of undisciplined imagination. And when imagination is misapplied, the outcome must follow, for the outer world cannot help but obey the inner law. The successful trader understands that risk is not to be feared but redefined. He does not imagine the possibility of ruin. He imagines the certainty of growth. He sees every trade not as a gamble, but as an expression of his disciplined inner state. Even when the market moves against him, he does not collapse into fear, because his imagination does not dwell in loss. He has already assumed himself to be profitable, and so even setbacks become steps toward the greater unfolding of that vision. Risk in his world is not danger, but the cost of expansion, not threat, but opportunity dressed in disguise. The irony is that the same imaginative power that creates fear also creates abundance. The mind that envisions collapse can also envision triumph. The same imagination that breeds hesitation can birth confidence. The difference lies in direction. Applied one way, imagination manufactures endless worries and repeated losses. Applied rightly, it becomes the fountain of discipline, courage, and prosperity. When imagination is aligned with success, what once was called risk dissolves into nothingness. For the trader no longer measures by fear but by faith. Every trader must choose how to apply the gift of imagination. To misuse it is to create shadows and call them reality. To master it is to see through appearances and assume victory in advance. What the world calls risk is simply an untrained imagination projecting fear into tomorrow. But what the awakened trader knows is that tomorrow is born from today's assumption, and if imagination is directed toward abundance, the outer world has no choice but to comply. Risk, then, is not real. It is only imagination misapplied, waiting to be reclaimed and used for creation rather than destruction. Profits flow from disciplined assumption. To the untrained trader, profits appear as chance, as luck, as the fleeting outcome of a random market. But to the one who understands the law of consciousness, profits are never accidents. They are the direct harvest of inner discipline, the quiet certainty of assumption held with persistence. The market is not a master but a mirror, and it reflects with precision the state of the one who engages it. If the trader assumes loss, chaos, or fear, then the market obliges by returning what has been inwardly entertained. If the trader assumes profit, stability, and success with unwavering discipline, then the outer conditions bend to that inner command. Discipline of assumption does not mean wishful thinking. It is not a fleeting hope whispered in moments of desperation. It is the steady inner posture of living from the end, of occupying in imagination the state of the successful trader until it becomes natural. The disciplined trader does not allow doubt to hijack his vision, nor does he let temporary appearances sway his inner conviction. He knows the chart may rise and fall, but his assumption of profit is fixed, and so these fluctuations are interpreted only as steps toward fulfillment. Profits do not flow to the undisciplined mind, for the undisciplined mind wavers between fear and faith, between confidence and confusion. One moment it imagines success, and the next it envisions ruin. This inner contradiction manifests outwardly as inconsistent results, sudden losses, and missed opportunities. The disciplined assumption, however, is single-minded. It chooses its state deliberately and abides in it regardless of appearances. Just as a seed, once planted, does not require constant digging up to check its progress, the disciplined trader plants the seed of profit in imagination and allows it to unfold in its season. Discipline of assumption also means restraint from impulsive action. The trader who has assumed wealth does not chase after the market with desperation, for he knows abundance is already his. He does not over-leverage, over-trade, or react in panic, because his imagination has already secured the end. Every action he takes flows from calm conviction, not from anxiety. His discipline is not only in his trading plan, but in his inner alignment. He governs thought, emotion, and vision as carefully as he manages risk and capital. The undisciplined may copy his methods, but cannot replicate his results, for the secret lies not in the method, but in the mind that sustains it. The market rewards assumption because life itself is structured to echo imagination. The outer world is clay, and imagination is the mold. Profits, then, are nothing but imagination crystallized into numbers on a screen. The disciplined trader imagines profit until profit feels inevitable, and when action is taken, it flows effortlessly from that state. The undisciplined imagines loss and then wonders why his trades betray him. Both are creators, both are manifesting, but one directs the creative power with discipline, while the other squanders it through fear. Profits flow consistently only when assumption is consistent. The trader who succeeds has trained himself to feel wealth before it appears, to assume success before the chart confirms it, to live inwardly in the end while outwardly working through the process. This is discipline, the refusal to waver, the determination to hold to the unseen vision until it becomes seen. Profits are not accidents of the market, but reflections of disciplined assumption. And when that discipline is mastered, abundance flows as naturally as breath. Live from the end, you see yourself already successful. The greatest secret of transformation lies not in effort, struggle, or endless trial and error, but in the ability to assume the state of the wish fulfilled and live as though it were already true. To the ordinary trader, success appears as something far off, dependent on years of study, perfect conditions, or luck in the market. But to the awakened, success is first an inner reality, something accepted in imagination and felt so deeply that the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. When you live from the end, you are no longer chasing success. You are embodying it. The state of the successful trader is not created by profits. Profits are created by the state. This is why two traders can use the same strategy in the same market with opposite results. One operates from the assumption of loss, the other from the assumption of gain. One is trying to become successful. The other is already successful in his imagination. The results follow accordingly, because consciousness precedes manifestation. To see yourself already successful is to withdraw attention from appearances that contradict it. If the account balance is low, you do not dwell on the lack. If the market moves against you, you do not rehearse the story of failure. You persist in the vision of yourself disciplined, confident, and abundant. This persistence does not ignore reality, it reshapes it. For reality is only the outpicturing of belief, and belief is nothing more than imagination made firm. When you continually see yourself as you wish to be, you are planting seeds in the unseen that must bear fruit in the seen. Living from the end requires a shift in identity. Instead of being the one striving to succeed, you assume the identity of the one who has succeeded. Your inner conversations change. Your reactions shift. You no longer ask, "Will I make it?" because you know you already have. You no longer fear losses, because they cannot alter the fact of your inner success. You no longer doubt the process, because you are living the end, not seeking it. From this position, your actions flow naturally, calmly, and powerfully, aligning with the image you hold of yourself. The imagination is the workshop of creation. When you picture yourself as a successful trader, calm in decision-making, precise in action, and consistent in profit, you are impressing upon your subconscious the pattern of success. Repetition of this assumption makes it natural, and what is natural must eventually externalize. You begin to act differently, think differently, and trade differently, not through forced effort, but through the effortless unfolding of identity. Just as an actor immersed in his role begins to think, speak, and move as the character, so do you, immersed in your end, begin to live as the successful one you have assumed yourself to be. The world may call this unrealistic, but the world itself is the result of imagination. Every chart pattern, every tool, every piece of technology once existed first as an idea in someone's mind. To live from the end is not to deny reality, but to create it consciously. The trader who sees himself as victorious in advance is not deluding himself. He is preparing the ground for the harvest. The one who waits for proof before believing will wait endlessly, for proof comes only after assumption. This practice requires discipline. The mind will be tempted by appearances, distracted by temporary outcomes, and lured into fear. Yet persistence is the key. You return again and again to the end, living in the feeling of success as though it were already done. Over time, this becomes second nature, and when it does, the outer market begins to conform. Profits flow, opportunities appear, and success becomes inevitable, not because the market has changed, but because you have. Live from the end. Do not try to become the successful trader. Be him now in imagination. Speak as him, act as him, think as him, feel as him. The market must eventually reveal what you have already assumed, for life cannot withhold from you the state you faithfully occupy. Detach from fear and anchor yourself in calm certainty. Fear is the great enemy of success, the silent thief that robs traders of clarity, courage, and confidence. It whispers in the background of every decision, coloring perception and twisting logic. It magnifies small movements into crises, turns minor pullbacks into disasters, and convinces the mind that the future is nothing but danger waiting to strike. To trade from fear is to surrender authority to shadows, for fear is never substance, it is imagination misused, a picture of failure projected into tomorrow. Detachment from fear is not denial. It is not pretending the fear is absent, nor is it battling the feeling with sheer willpower. Detachment is the quiet realization that fear has no power except what you grant it. It is seeing the thought arise and refusing to identify with it. You are not the fear. You are the awareness observing it. When you detach, the fear loses its grip, for it cannot control one who no longer entertains its story. The disciplined trader understands this and treats fear as a passing shadow, not a master. To anchor yourself in calm certainty is to root your inner state in the end you have already chosen. Certainty does not come from external guarantees. for the market offers none. Certainty comes from assumption, deciding inwardly that success is yours and refusing to be moved by temporary appearances. When anchored in certainty, you are not swayed by sudden volatility or shaken by losses. These events may come, but they do not define you. You remain steady because you know the outcome has already been secured in consciousness. Fear thrives on attention. The more you imagine loss, the more you feel it, and the more you attract circumstances that mirror it. Calm certainty thrives on faith. The more you dwell on success, the more natural it feels, and the more conditions align with it. Where fear pulls energy outward in panic, certainty gathers energy inward in stillness. In stillness, decisions become clear, patience becomes natural, and actions become precise. The trader who anchors himself in calm certainty acts not from desperation, but from alignment, and this alignment produces consistent results. Detachment from fear also means refusing to react emotionally to every rise and fall. Fear-driven traders exit too soon, enter too late, or over-leverage in desperation. Certainty-driven traders remain composed. They do not chase the market, they allow the market to come to them. They do not act to escape discomfort, they act because their vision of success is already established within. Detachment gives them mastery over reaction, and certainty guides them with clarity. Anchoring in calm certainty is a practice of imagination. It requires that you continually picture yourself as the trader you wish to be, composed, successful, and in control. You rehearse in your mind the state of one who is unaffected by fear until it becomes natural. When fear arises, you recall this image, stepping into the role of your assumed identity. Over time, fear loses its authority, and certainty becomes your default state. This anchoring is not rigid but flexible. Calm certainty does not mean stubbornness, it means trust. You trust your inner vision more than outer noise. You trust your discipline more than fleeting emotion. You trust the outcome because it has already been claimed in imagination. Even when trades do not go as planned, certainty remains. You adjust, learn, and move forward without collapsing into despair. Fear isolates, making you believe you are powerless, but certainty connects you to the deeper truth that life responds to assumption. The market is not against you, nor is it for you. It simply reflects the state you bring to it. If you bring fear, it will echo fear. If you bring calm certainty, it will echo success. To detach from fear is to stop feeding the cycle of imagined defeat, and to anchor in certainty is to begin feeding the cycle of imagined abundance. When you live anchored in certainty, trading ceases to be a battlefield and becomes an expression of inner order. The market no longer intimidates, for you are no longer tossed about by appearances. You act with poise, accept outcomes with equanimity, and persist in your vision without wavering. Success becomes not a distant goal, but a natural unfolding of the state you occupy. Detach from fear and anchor yourself in calm certainty. For fear is only a shadow of imagination misapplied, and certainty is the light of imagination directed rightly. One enslaves, the other liberates. One produces chaos, the other creates order. Choose to step out of fear and stand firm in the quiet power of certainty. For it is in that state that the trader discovers not only profit, but mastery over himself and the market alike. Inner state always precedes outer results. The world you see, the conditions you experience, and the outcomes you encounter are not accidents, nor are they determined by chance or circumstance. They are the echoes of your inner world, the crystallization of assumptions, beliefs, and feelings that you have entertained within. To the unawakened mind, it appears that external events create emotions, that the movement of the market or the balance of the account dictates one's inner state. Yet the truth is reversed. It is the inner state that gives birth to the outer picture, and what you experience in the visible realm is only the shadow of what has been assumed in the invisible. The trader who fears loss, doubts success, and lives in anxiety about the future has already determined the course of his results. His inner state is one of uncertainty, and so the market reflects that uncertainty in the form of losses, mistakes, and missed opportunities. He blames volatility, strategies, or even luck, but he overlooks the true cause, his own consciousness. The inner state is the seed, and the outer results are the harvest. If the seed is corrupted with fear and doubt, The fruit must bear the same flavor. No amount of effort can change the harvest if the seed is not first changed. To live with awareness of this law is to take full responsibility for your outcomes. Instead of reacting to appearances, you begin to govern your assumptions. You no longer say, I failed because the market was against me, but rather, I failed because my inner state assumed failure. This realization is liberating, for it returns power to its rightful place within you. When you know that results flow from state, you cease to chase after conditions and begin to cultivate consciousness. The disciplined trader understands that success is not the product of perfect strategies, but of perfect alignment within. His actions are steady because his inner state is steady. He does not enter the market to prove himself or to escape fear, but to express the success he has already assumed. When he wins, it confirms what he already knew inwardly. When he loses, it does not shake him, for the loss is seen only as a temporary movement within a greater unfolding. His results, whether immediate or delayed, are born from the conviction of his inner posture, and so he remains anchored in calm confidence. Inner state always precedes outer results because consciousness is creative. What you continually imagine, feel, and assume must externalize, for life cannot withhold from you the state you faithfully occupy. If you imagine yourself disciplined, prosperous, and calm, your actions will naturally align with that identity, and the market will reflect it back. If you imagine yourself reckless, unlucky, or doomed, your actions will mirror those beliefs, and the market will faithfully deliver what you have assumed. The outer world is obedient, never questioning, always conforming to the blueprint impressed upon it by your inner state. This truth demands discipline of thought. For while it is easy to acknowledge that inner state shapes reality, it is far more difficult to persist in a chosen state when appearances contradict it. The account may show a loss, the trade may turn against you, and the temptation to assume defeat may grow strong. Yet it is in these moments that mastery is proven. To persist in the inner vision of success despite contradictory evidence is to plant the seed in fertile ground and refuse to uproot it. Over time, the outer results must yield, for appearances cannot resist the command of sustained assumption. The novice trader believes results determine state. When he wins, he feels confident. When he loses, he feels fearful. His emotions are tossed about by conditions, and his performance is erratic. The seasoned trader knows state determines results. He chooses confidence before he wins, and calm before he loses. His emotions are not dependent on circumstances, but on the identity he has assumed. Because of this, his results become consistent, reflecting the consistency of his inner discipline. Inner state is the true capital of trading. Money may come and go, strategies may change, markets may shift, but the inner state, once mastered, produces success regardless of circumstance. It is the invisible foundation upon which every outer gain is built. To neglect it is to gamble with shadows. To cultivate it is to secure wealth at its source. Consider the principle in broader life. The man who assumes health, vitality, and strength often finds his body aligning with that vision. The one who assumes weakness, sickness, and decline often lives out that expectation. The law does not discriminate between subjects. It applies equally to trading, relationships, health, and every area of existence. Whatever is assumed inwardly must express outwardly. To embody this principle fully, you must train yourself to notice your state before you notice results. Ask yourself not, what is happening outside, but what am I assuming inside? Before you analyze the chart, analyze your imagination. Before you react to the market, examine your inner dialogue. The thoughts and feelings you entertain are not harmless. They are instructions to reality, blueprints that shape tomorrow's conditions. By mastering them, you master results. Inner state always precedes outer results because life itself is imagination outpictured. The market does not dictate your destiny, nor does luck or chance. It is your state of being, the posture of consciousness, that writes the script you will later act out. By choosing deliberately, persisting faithfully, and disciplining imagination, you create results that reflect the success you have already claimed within. The outer world is nothing more than the mirror of your inner world, and until the state changes, the reflection cannot. The market does not shape you. You shape the market through imagination. To most traders, the market appears as an uncontrollable force, a giant that towers above them, dictating their emotions and commanding their actions. They rise and fall with its movements, celebrating when it lifts them upward and despairing when it pulls them down. They believe themselves to be victims of circumstance, powerless before the endless waves of volatility. Yet this is an illusion born of ignorance, for the true power does not reside in the shifting lines of a chart, but in the inner life of the trader who observes it. The market is not a master but a mirror, and what you see reflected there is the image of your own imagination. If you approach the market with fear, you will find endless reasons to fear. Every fluctuation will appear as a threat, every loss as a confirmation of your inner dread. If you approach with greed, you will chase after every movement, blinded by desperation and vulnerable to collapse. If you approach with calm conviction, you will see patterns clearly, act decisively, and allow the natural flow of profit to unfold. The same chart can inspire panic in one trader and confidence in another, not because the chart has changed, but because the inner state interpreting it is different. It is not the market shaping the trader. It is the imagination of the trader shaping the market. Imagination is the hidden law of creation. Whatever you assume inwardly, life must outpicture outwardly. When you imagine yourself as a failing trader, clinging to every tick with anxiety, the market seems to conspire against you. When you imagine yourself as a successful trader, composed and profitable, the market reveals opportunities that align with that vision. This is not superstition but law. The outer world is clay in the hands of imagination, and the form it takes depends entirely on the mold you hold within. Many believe trading is a game of numbers, strategies, and probabilities. They think that by mastering technical analysis or studying market psychology, they can control outcomes. Yet countless traders with knowledge and skill continue to fail, while others with simpler methods succeed. The difference lies not in the tools, but in the consciousness using them. Charts, indicators, and strategies are neutral. It is imagination that breathes life into them, giving them meaning and direction. A fearful mind will misuse the best system, while a disciplined imagination will prosper with even the simplest approach. To shape the market through imagination is to live from the end. It is to assume the identity of the trader you wish to be before any outer evidence confirms it. You do not wait for profit to feel successful. You feel successful, and profit follows. You do not wait for the market to prove your worth. You assume your worth, and the market aligns. This shift is subtle yet profound, for it moves the center of power from the external to the internal. Instead of being a leaf blown about by winds of chance, you become the author of your own story. This is not to say the market ceases to fluctuate or that losses never occur. Rather, it is to say that fluctuations lose their power to control you, and losses are no longer seen as defeats, but as temporary appearances within a larger unfolding. When you know you are the one shaping the market through imagination, you cease to react emotionally to every turn. You remain anchored in your assumption, steady in your vision, and calm in your execution. The market becomes a stage upon which your inner state performs, and the results you experience are the outpicturing of what you have already assumed. Consider the trader who imagines himself disciplined, patient, and prosperous. Each morning he rehearses this vision inwardly, feeling the satisfaction of successful trades and the calm of a balanced mind. When he sits before the screen, he does not chase every flicker of price, for his imagination has already secured the end. He waits, observes, and acts deliberately. His results reflect his inner conviction. Another trader, with the same tools and the same opportunities, imagines himself uncertain and unlucky. He doubts his ability, fears every outcome, and expects failure. His actions mirror his assumptions. He overtrades, exits too soon, or holds too long, and the market faithfully delivers what he has already imagined. Both traders engage the same market, but each experiences a different reality, because each has shaped the market through imagination. Imagination misapplied is the root of failure. To dwell on losses, to picture ruin, to rehearse fear is to instruct the market to echo these states back to you. Imagination rightly applied is the root of success. To dwell on abundance, To picture discipline, to rehearse victory is to impress these states upon the subconscious, and the market cannot help but reflect them. The choice of application belongs to you, for imagination is always creating, whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. Discipline in imagination is the highest form of discipline in trading. It is easy to discipline actions for a time, following rules, setting stops, adhering to plans. But if the imagination is undisciplined, results will remain inconsistent. True mastery is disciplining the inner state until success feels natural, until calm is the default, until profit is assumed before it appears. Once this discipline is established, outer discipline follows effortlessly, for actions flow from state, not the other way around. The market does not shape you. You shape the market through imagination. When this truth is understood, trading ceases to be a gamble and becomes a deliberate act of creation. You are no longer at the mercy of news, volatility, or chance. You are the one directing the play, choosing the role you occupy, and watching the world conform. The imagination you hold of yourself as a trader determines the market you encounter, and the consistency with which you hold that imagination determines the consistency of your results. To live by this law requires persistence. The outer world will tempt you to believe it has power. A string of losses may whisper that you are failing. Sudden volatility may shout that you are unprepared. Yet these are only appearances, reflections of past assumptions. If you persist in your chosen vision, the outer must eventually conform. The law cannot be broken, for it is the very structure of reality. Imagination precedes manifestation, inner state precedes outer result. Shape the market through imagination by first shaping yourself. See yourself as you wish to be, live from that end, and refuse to be moved by appearances. When doubt arises, return to your vision. When fear tempts you, anchor yourself in the state of success. Over time, this assumption becomes natural, and what is natural must express. The market will bend to your imagination, reflecting back to you the success you have already accepted within. For it was never the market that had power. It was always you, shaping it through the invisible yet undeniable force of imagination.